Back in 2017, during the first year of Donald Trump's presidency, I organized a conference on the crises of democracy. We invited over 20 speakers, most of whom who viewed right-wing populism as a threat to democratic ideals. Yet I was adamant about including voices that disagree, voices that believe that populism could be democratic, productive, and meaningful. One such voice was Mark Jungen, a German philosophy professor and intellectual leader of the anti-immigrant and anti-EU Alternative für Deutschland. Hosting Jungen embodied the mission of the Hannah Arendt Center at Bard College, to provide an institutional space for challenging, thoughtful, and decent voices from across the political spectrum. We believe in creating spaces where ideas, even unsettling ideas, are heard, criticized, and ultimately engaged. I founded the Arendt Center in 2006 to be an institutional space for bold, risky, and yes, provocative thinking about the public world in the spirit of Hannah Arendt. We've had speakers calling to abolish the police, and others who think we should stop speaking about race at all. Many of our speakers push the envelope. But it's important, to me at least, that everyone we invite to speak is someone we think is smart, decent, and thoughtful. We don't invite mere propagandists. We don't people who just shout fire in order to get a reaction. In short, we invite people who are willing to try and persuade us that their arguments are worth hearing and potentially even convincing us of them. And our goal is to foster genuine conversation that challenge mainstream orthodoxies. Now, this is not about abstract claims of free speech, right? I don't think of ourselves as a free speech organization. What we're actually trying to do is not just say things and speak what you want, but we want you to pursue the practical pursuit of understanding and building a common world that we share, a world we share. My argument today is that the political act of building a common world is based not in truth, but in friendship, specifically a politics of friendship. Friends, you all have friends, I hope. Friends talk to each other about their children, or what they did over vacation, or even politics. They talk in restaurants, they talk taking a hike in the woods. And when they talk, they learn where they agree. And they disagree, but they begin to build a common world. They learn what they share, and this becomes a foundation. And this practice of world building is at the core of politics, right? In politics, we speak with others, citizens, non-citizens, people who live around us, people with whom we agree, and even those we disagree with. But we find what we share. We find the lowest common denominator. We find what we can agree on. Political or civic friendship in this idea is the idea that we treat our fellow citizens as friends, even when we don't particularly like them. And this is something that's important about friendship. You don't have to like your friends. You have to respect them. You have to find them interesting. You have to find them something to talk about with them. And you actually can find those people compelling more than sometimes the ones you really like. If our goal is to understand the world in its multivocality, we must listen to many voices. The world is comprehensible only to the extent that many people can talk about it and exchange their opinions and perspectives. So free speech matters not because you can say what you want, but because, as Hannah Arendt argues, if someone wants to see and experience the world as it really is, to learn about the world, you're going to have to get outside of your shell, outside of your bubble, and listen to other people, to many people. Now, this exchange of viewpoints and perspectives is crucial in politics. John Stuart Mill, in his book On Liberty, reminds us that opposing views sharpen our own, right? So if we don't listen to others, we actually don't think as well ourselves. He writes, both teachers and learners go to sleep at their posts as soon as there is no enemy in the field. One of my favorite quotes. We need enemies in order to think better. We need critics who passionately believe in what we oppose. Only by talking to smart and passionate people with whom we seriously disagree will we clarify our own opinions and build towards a truly pluralist world that we can share with others. Politics, therefore, is about opinion, not about truth. And one common misconception about free speech is that it leads to the discovery of truth, right? We speak a lot and we get to truth. That's not true. It does not. Politics is not about truth. It is about opinions. Consider the war between Russia and Ukraine. Right? It is a fact that Russia attacked Ukraine. It's a fact. And it is a fact that NATO's expansion threatened Russia and made many Russians nervous about Western aggression. It's also a fact. I may believe that Russia is at fault for the war, but deciding which side is more just is not a matter of truth. It's a matter of opinion. Similarly with climate change, facts about rising temperatures and human impact are true. They're undeniable. So too is the fact that the Earth has warmed and cooled over millennia. Even if climate change is dangerous, which may be a fact, the trade-offs and solutions, such as balancing economic growth with climate action, are rooted in opinion, not truth. Politics thrives on these kind of opinions and disagreements. Politics is at its core the effort to persuade others and find a common ground. My point is that politics never is about truth. And this is maybe hard to hear, but it's also never about justice. I know this is controversial, but it's true. There is no one true or just answer to how we should collectively organize our lives together, which is what politics is about. Politics always concerns people who see the world from different perspectives. The very word politics, the Greek politeia, is from the Greek verb pelein, which was a verb the ancient Greeks used to describe the smoke rings rising in circles coming out of a peace pipe. As Aristotle tells us, politics is about the gathering around of a plurality of people who are different around a common center, a pole. Politics means pole, the center. Politics is the activity of unifying a plurality of citizens who disagree and must come to see themselves as a people, as a common people, while still respecting their differences and their plurality. So, if politics is about opinion and not about truth, then the art of political persuasion is not the ability to convince others that I am right. I may try to persuade others to embrace my view, but I also must listen to them and be open to being persuaded as well. Politics is about persuasion as the core activity of politics, which means that I actually must engage in a two-sided or even multi-sided activity in which all sides to a discussion express their opinions, listen to others, and make their own judgments. However, and this is important, to share in a world in common, we must make the common world. It doesn't just exist. It's not true. It's not revealed. And we make the common world, we build the world of politics by talking about the world and listening to others so that our world expands, right? You and I sit around a table, we take a walk, we talk, we listen to each other, and we open our eyes, we open our mind. This enlarged mentality, a word that Kant used and Hannah Arendt made a lot of, it tells us that we have to set aside our prejudices and consider other viewpoints, so that political speech is not about lecturing or indoctrinating others. It's not about education, right? Political education is an oxymoron. It's about collaboratively shaping and understanding the world through talking and dialogue amongst friends. This understanding of politics echoes the Homeric impartiality found in the Iliad, where Homer presents both Greek and Trojan perspectives. He celebrates both Achilles and Hector. To be truly impartial, we must recognize that no single perspective has a monopoly on truth. Instead, we seek common ground through dialogue, through talking. Thus, impartiality is not the same as objectivity. Looking at the world impartially means that judgment must emerge not as an objective truth through science or God, but as the common sense that is produced through conversation and discussion amongst friends, amongst people who are committed to finding a common ground amidst their differences. A politics grounded in understanding and a politics that respects others to build a common world is a politics that elevates friendship over the politics of truth. Right? Friendship over the politics of truth. Friends engage in open dialogue, building a shared world while respecting each other's differences. It's grounded in respect, and in this sense, friendship can transcend opposed ideas of justice by fostering mutual understanding. Even when friends disagree, we respect one another enough to see the humanity in our friend's opinion. Do you have that experience where your friend is just so irritating and annoying, and yet you see them as a human being? Consider the Roman philosopher Cicero, who after the loss of his daughter retreated to the countryside and wrote to his friend and fellow politician Brutus. And Cicero wrote, one of my favorite lines, right? "I prefer before heaven to go astray with Plato rather than to hold true views with his opponents." Amazing, right? I prefer to be wrong with my friend than right with my enemies. Cicero here says he values friendship over an abstract allegiance to truth. And Hannah Arendt echoes this sentiment, suggesting that humanity and the relationships that define it must come before a rigid devotion to so-called truths. This does not mean that we dismiss or abandon truth, right? There's a lot of these memes going around right now that supposedly liberal professors don't like truth, right? That's not what I'm saying, right? It just means that in politics, truth is never absolute. It means that we have to realize that in politics, it's actually about building a community in which we respect each other's humanity, even if we believe different truths. For instance, Arendt critiques the racial theories of the Third Reich, which falsely claimed scientific legitimacy to justify horrific political actions. She warns that even seemingly true theories and doctrines, which claim the mantle of scientific truth, can lead to inhumanity. Or consider the contemporary debates around immigration. It is a fact that people come here illegally. And it is a fact that some people who come here illegally also build decent and truly American lives. Deciding how to respond to these facts requires engagement, listening, and persuasion, not rigid dogma. If you base your politics on a theory, be it the theory, American is a Christian nation, or the theory, we should have open borders, the practice of politics is lost as a collective engagement with reality. Arendt's core argument is this: above any truth, politics must prioritize the bonds of friendship and humanity. She insists that no truth, no matter how consistently proven, no theory, is worth sacrificing a friendship for. A Muslim, a Hindu, a Jew, a Christian, they all may hold fundamentally different beliefs about life's origins or morality, but these differences should not preclude meaningful dialogue and mutual respect. Arendt warns us against the dangers of an unerring conscience that prioritizes being right over being human. Such certainty, she argues, ends discourse, friendship, and ultimately our shared humanity. We live in an era where certainty often trumps connection, and many believe that their political stances on abortion or climate change or foreign policy is the objectively right one. This self-certainty has deepened political divides, creating an environment where dialogue feels impossible. For example, fewer than 4% of marriages today are between Democrats and Republicans. And over 70% of Democrats say they wouldn't date someone who voted for Donald Trump. Meanwhile, the number of people reporting close friendships has declined dramatically, with 20% of men admitting they have no close friends at all. No friends at all. This crisis in friendship mirrors a crisis in politics. Without the ability to connect across differences, both our relationships and our political systems suffer. Arendt's idea of political friendship offers a way forward. She suggests that when we engage in dialogue in the spirit of friendship, truly listening to and respecting one another, we can begin to build a common world, or a world we share. For example, while two people might disagree on abortion, they could agree on exceptions for cases like rape or threats to the mother's life. Such agreements require both parties to let go of their certainties, their theories, and instead prioritize collaboration. Arendt believed deeply in the power of dialogue to rebuild our shared humanity. She wrote, "We become more just and more pious by thinking and talking about justice and piety." Strange, right? Simply by talking with others about justice and piety, we become more just. Talking with others with whom we disagree is not just idle chatter. It's the foundation of democracy and community. By engaging in respectful, open conversations, we create the conditions for understanding, collaboration, and ultimately civic friendship. It's in this way that political friendship is a creative act. It doesn't aim to erase differences, but to find common ground amidst them. Arendt argues that this kind of dialogue, the act of talking and thinking together over coffee or, late at night in the bar, can distill prejudices and foster mutual understanding. Over time, these shared conversations become the building blocks of new traditions and moral orders, offering hope for a fractured world. And we do live in a fractured world. In a time of deep division, the practice of political friendship, talking with others across our differences, offers a path forward. It challenges us to prioritize humanity over certainty and dialogue over dogma. By doing so, we can begin to heal our fractured politics and rediscover the shared world we all inhabit. Friendship is not easy, right? Our friends disappoint us. And political friendship is not easy. There are people who infuriate us. And yet, what I try to leave you with today is that humanity and politics both are more meaningful, more secure, and more human when we prioritize a politics of friendship over a politics of truth. Thank you very much.